Welcome to the Investigator's Hotline here on GIMG.TV. The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host, guest, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. When you need answers about the professional investigative field, you need a hotline. And now your host for the Investigator's Hotline, Rory J. McMahon.
Welcome to the November edition of Investigator's Hotline. I am your host, Rory McMahon, and today we have a very special guest, an individual who is a very good friend of mine. We actually first met in January of 1997. I flew out to San Diego, California to do testing for the Certified Legal Investigator certification that's offered by the National Association of Legal Investigators. And prior to my flying out to San Diego, where the Midwinter Conference was being held, I was advised by a close friend of mine, Kerry Forney from Orlando, to look up a good friend of his, John LaJoy, who was also taking the test that weekend. So immediately upon checking into my hotel room, I dropped off my bags and then went and found Mr. LaJoy. I knocked on his door to his room, which was in a very beautiful hotel in San Diego. And there in front of me was John, who was stretched out on the floor, surrounded by index cards. I learned after looking at them that on the front was the question, on the back was the answer. And after a brief introduction, we sat down and John started firing some questions at me. Now, on the 4-hour airplane ride out to San Diego, I felt pretty confident that I was well prepared. After spending 30 minutes with John, I realized I was not so well prepared, that he was asking me a lot of questions that I didn't really know the answer to. So I excused myself and went back to my room and hit the books. But the good news was that we both took the exam and we both passed it. And there's a special bond that's created by people that take that test and pass it. And we've certainly had that bond along with Deanna Acuna, who I hope to have on this program next month. And we've been friends ever since then. So John LaJoy from Worcester, Massachusetts, I'm speaking to him. He's in his office. Welcome to the program, John.
Well, Rory, thank you very much for that kind addition. You make it seem like I'm a lot smarter than I really am.
Okay.
But you are my brother, CLI,
Correct.
And Deanna is my sister, CLI, and that makes an even more special bond.
Right.
And I can't tell you what a glorious weekend that was. I mean, it was stressful,
Right,
to say the least, but it was a glorious weekend because the three of us happened to pass that exam, and I credit each other with helping each other study and being prepared for that exam, because that is, as you know, the toughest exam in the profession. But I'm glad to be on the show. I've known you, almost 20 years now. We've worked some cases together that I think we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. I agree with you. I think that the CLI is the crowning achievement of my professional career, and it's something that I cherish, and you and I have both worked hard since then, not only on maintaining it, but also working with Nally and working on the CLI committee and whatnot. But that's a topic for another day.
It is.
John,
you
what...
could do a whole hour on that topic.
Exactly. Tell me a little bit about your background and what prompted you to become a private investigator.
Well, today I'm a healthy 56-year-old. I work in Massachusetts. I'm licensed in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. I own an agency, and it was a long road till I actually knew what I was going to be, or how I was going to be it. So I graduated from high school in Massachusetts, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't go to college at that point. I went into the United States Air Force, which turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. I was lucky enough I needed a kick. I was a golfer, and I was a very good golfer at the time, and I was a little cocky, but I realized I needed a kick. I needed life to kick me so that I could be zoomed into reality. So I went into the military. I got the discipline I needed to get. I got stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base for 4 years, which was an excellent duty, and met a lot of good people. Then I went over to Europe. I extended a couple of years in the Air Force, and I decided after living in England for a couple of years and playing all the great golf courses in Scotland and England, I needed to get my life on track for civilian life, and I did that. I got out of the military, went to college, graduated from Worcester State University in Worcester, Massachusetts, summa cum laude. Then I decided to go to work. I was given an offer to go to work for an insurance company as an adjuster. When you're being trained as a property casualty adjuster, you're doing investigations, and that's what really got me interested in investigation. It was a good experience because I was able to apply facts of an incident to policy language. So it taught me how to read insurance policies. And that's a big deal if you're in the private detective business, because you're going to have a very successful agency with a lot of individuals working for you, you need to know how to do insurance investigations. And if you know the language, when you're marketing insurance companies, they're more likely to hire you. So that was a really good experience. So anyway, after 5 years, I went up through the ranks, and after I went into the litigation department, I got some litigation experience. Then I went out on the road as an investigator for them, and I learned all sorts of investigation, liability investigation, comp investigation, SIU investigation, all aspects of insurance investigation, and that was very helpful. And while I was doing that, there was a criminal defense attorney I think it was in 1988. His name is Larry O'Connor. He's actually my criminal defense mentor, and he's still living, but he's retired. He saw one of my insurance company investigative claim files, because sometimes a lot of times the criminal overlaps with the civil. In other words, somebody's involved in an incident, car accident, let's say, there's a hit and run. They leave the scene of a personal injury accident. That's a felony in most states. So you're going to have a criminal charge if they catch the person. Then the person who was injured is going to make a claim against the negligent party, the person that was arrested. So there's a civil aspect and a criminal aspect. So O'Connor subpoenaed that file, and it was a pretty serious file. And he looked at the file and he said, "Hey, John, you did a tremendous job. You're better than the police. I want to use you for," this is an unbelievable story.
Right.
"I want to use you in a criminal case." So it was kind of I didn't know if it was a conflict, but I had known him because he was a member at the country club that my dad was the golf pro at. So I had known Larry. So I went to my manager and I asked her name was Karen McGilvert, and I asked her if I could do a criminal case for him. And she said, as long as it doesn't interfere with your work and it has nothing to do with your duties here, then I see no reason why, and it doesn't overlap with the insurance company, which is Commerce, who I was working for. So I went to his office. He didn't tell me what the case was, and I went to his office expecting, a simple assault or maybe another hit and run or something. So I walk in his office, and he says, "Come into my conference room." So I go into the conference room, and there's 2 other lawyers in there. And I look at the conference room table, and there's pictures of a dead person laying in a morgue or at the medical examiner's office on these tables, which I now know are autopsy tables. And I go, "Well, what's this?" He goes, "Congratulations. You're going to do a homicide investigation." So the first criminal case I ever did
Wow.
It's a homicide case. And he taught me how to do it. And, I did have investigative experience, but it was very stressful because, as you know, because you've done many homicides, if you can do a homicide defense investigation and do it competently, then that is the creme de la creme. Those are the toughest cases to do. And most folks would probably agree with me that are in the business. But that's really how it started. So then after about another year, I said, you know what? I really like doing the investigative side of this stuff rather than the adjusting and the negotiating with lawyers, although that came in handy for learning how to deal with all kinds of people and getting people to cooperate with you. And so I decided to go out on my own, and I was lucky enough to have a understanding supervisor, again, Karen McGilvery, and she signed my application to become a PI. I realized there was a market in the greater Worcester area, and Worcester is the second largest city in New England, although most people don't know that. And there
What
was
is
a
it
big
about 90 minutes from Boston, John?
No. About 50 minutes.
50 minutes.
It's in the center of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So that was a great part because it's centrally located to all cities in Massachusetts. I can be in Boston in 50 minutes. I can be in Springfield, which is another big city, in less than 60 minutes. I can be in Providence in 45 minutes. I can be in Portland, Maine in an hour and a half.
Wow.
So it's, and in New York in, Hartford in an hour, New York in 2.5, 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So it's a very centrally located. So I created a business plan and I executed that business plan. Obviously I did go to Worcester State University after the military, got my degree, a degree in history, political science, and philosophy. What did I know about business? Nothing.
Right.
So you know what I did? I took this business class, how to create and run your own small business. And I'll never forget, Mary Ann Wedgwood was the instructor. I still have a relationship with her today. And she was a paralegal at that time for Tim Murray, who became our lieutenant governor under Deval Patrick's first tenure, term in office. And that's how Murray and Murray became my client. They're still my clients. And she taught me, she was the one, it was an 8-week class. I'll never forget, I go in there the first class. And so she says, you got your notebook, all we required was a notebook and a pen. Well, my pen had fallen out of my pocket before I went in there, and I couldn't find it. And I'm going like this, I'm patting myself down. Where's the pen? So, and she looks at me and she goes, what's your name? And I said, John LaJoy. She goes, you don't have a pen? I said, well, I lost it. She goes, you know what? I don't think you're going to succeed as a business. And, I remind her to this day. She's had me come in and talk to her classes.
Right,
I remind her to this day that she once told me that I wasn't going to succeed as a businessman. I have run, although my agency isn't as big as it once was, the largest agency in almost all of New England.
Do you need an investigator? The Grafton Group is a Florida-based multidisciplined investigative firm that is committed to exceeding client expectations by truly understanding your needs. Our motto, "We bring clarity to every case," is in fact our mission for every client, thus providing you with information necessary to make informed decisions. The Grafton Group founders have applied an unparalleled, focused, and specialized approach to providing solutions to every client for decades. Our goal is to address your needs in a responsive, professional, and discreet manner. Our clientele represents leaders from corporations, government, the legal profession, and private citizens who look to the Grafton Group for innovative investigative expertise and solutions to their problems. For more information on how we can help you, visit us online at thegraftongroup.org.
You have been listening to the Investigators Hotline with your host, Rory J. McMahon, on GIMG.TV. You can contact Rory with a question or comment by using the Send Voicemail tab on the right side of the GIMG homepage, or email him at rory@gimg.tv.